Hello, everybody. Welcome to another interview with Hospitality MD. I'm Kyle, and I'm here with Irvin Cross, the guest services manager at the Conrad Chicago.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, I just want to get into a little bit of your background. I understand now you're currently in the luxury sector of hospitality, big market like downtown Chicago, but I understand it hasn't always been that way. You started on the Air Force, correct?
That's correct. I did 6 years in the U.S. Air Force. Been to Japan, Korea. Did a few years on the East Coast at Andrews in Washington, D.C. So loved it. Loved serving my country.
So, you've gone from serving your country to serving your guests, right?
Yes.
So, how is that? How is your experience and time in the Air Force? How does that play into your career? How does that play into your overall philosophy on hospitality?
I think the biggest thing that being in the Air Force taught me was accountability. And I know that's a cliche answer, so I'll specify by saying punctuality. And that's one thing that I take pride in, that I'm never late for work and I never call off, because in the Air Force you don't call off, you don't come late. If you're on time, you're late. So in an industry like hospitality, I think that punctuality is so important because the hotel never closes. So, and on top of that, you're always relieving somebody. There's no better feeling at the end of a shift than seeing your relief walk in. And it's just like, for people who don't get that, for people who are perpetually late, it's just like you need to go be in the military for a little while and understand what that looks like. So,
And your actions impact other people too. If you're late, you're whoever's there before you is not going to be too happy with
exactly. You never know who's got to catch a bus or a train or just want to leave.
Definitely. So, would you say that you learned anything specifically in the Air Force that you on the daily basis apply to guest interactions or service recovery scenarios or anything along those lines?
Fairness. That's definitely one thing about the military. Everything is pretty much black and white, and everything is fair. You don't have really many options in terms of doing people wrong, because everything is documented, everything is spotlighted. So with that mentality, that's how I try and handle guest situations. That's how I try and handle management situations, where it's like, okay, what's the most fair and equitable answer or resolution?
So, because I'm sure with the unpredictable world of hospitality, not everything is black and white. Not everything is yes or no or whatever. Do you find that that was a challenge for you to kind of have to see the gray area a little bit, or have to be flexible with guests, and especially as a manager, that's kind of your job, is to be flexible and be the person who can kind of bend the rules a little bit.
Absolutely. I think that I know that does factor into it, but it's very important not to manage situations with emotion. And that's one thing. I have a personal saying, which is, take it serious, but don't take it personal. And I see a lot of times where managers in any entity, because they don't like the way the guest talk to them, or they don't like a situation that the guest is bringing on them. It's like, why do they want to speak to a manager? I was just about to go to lunch. I'm about to go out there and, give them nothing or do nothing. It's like, yeah, that's not cool. So it's like, that could be a gray area. If you eliminate, if you take yourself out of the equation and look at it from the guest perspective, then you'll always be fair and you'll always come up with the best resolution.
So what you're saying is, if you put yourself in the guest's shoes, if you empathize with that guest, you'll always come up with the best solution.
Of course, and that's a lot of times we don't really put ourselves in the guest's shoes because we're in our own shoes, and you don't know if that guest missed their flight this morning or got into an argument with their husband or wife, and they're just lashing out at the person in front of them. They don't know you personally, so it's like, if you don't take it personal and you just look at it like, wow, they're having a bad day, what can I do to make it better? You look at it from that perspective, you will always have a place in hospitality.
That's really well said, Irvin. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
You've kind of been all over the place as far as after you got out of the Air Force and moving into hospitality. Was that something that you went right into after the Air Force, or was it kind of a transition where you were kind of figuring out, okay, what do I want to do post military?
It was 100% by accident. I got out of the military, full-time student, living on my sister's couch, just chilling, just enjoying, doing nothing.
Like after
And
6 years of that, I'm ready to just relax.
exactly, but my sister's like, dude, you got to contribute. You know, you eating all my Cheetos, you got to, bring some money in or something. So I'm like, okay, let me try and find a job. And I literally was walking down the street. It was summertime, August. It was hot. I had on a full suit and tie, walking down the street, drenched in sweat, and somebody honks the horn. I look over, it's my neighbor, and he's like, what are you doing out here? I'm like, I'm getting ready to catch the bus, to catch the train, to go downtown, to fill out applications. This is back before you just did it all online.
Right.
So they were like, well, we'll give you a ride, to the bus. And they were like, where you going? And I'm like, I'm going downtown. They said, we going downtown. We'll give you a ride. And he was dropping his wife off for work. And she's like, well, we're looking for a part-time bellman, part-time front desk agent at my hotel. And I was like, I'm in. And so she's like, all right, let me take you in, introduce you to my boss. I went in there and I got hired that day, and I haven't looked back.
Well, that was easy. It's just crazy to think how else that could have gone,
Oh, yeah.
Simply you were probably just feeling so, like, demoralized walking through the heat, like, oh man, I gotta get on. And it's like, who knows how many applications I'm going to fill out today before I can get one phone call back.
Exactly. And that was after probably a month of just trying and failing, because I was in school, but I didn't have my degree. And I had 6 years of military experience. So it was like I was overqualified for a lot of jobs because of my military experience, but underqualified for a lot of jobs because I didn't have a degree. So it was like a lot of thanks, but no thanks. So.
Well, it's almost like your hospitality career started from an act of hospitality from your neighbor.
Oh wow, that's deep, right? Oh wow.
If you think about it,
it just sent chills down my spine.
If you ask me, I think that's exactly what happened. Your neighbor, literally anticipated your need.
Woo!
And
responded to cues.
Yes, exactly. In the simplest way. And I guess if your neighbor was already working in hospitality, that just goes to show how that can transcend into life.
Of course.
So, man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So from there, you started, was that a full service, select service?
No, it was a select service, the Fairfield Inn on Ontario.
Okay.
So 185 rooms, real laid back, modern, nice hotel.
Oh yeah, I've been in there a few times.
Nice.
So you liked it obviously because you kept at it, and then where'd you go from there?
From there, I went to the Courtyard O'Hare as night auditor. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse, even though I lived really far away from O'Hare. I wanted to grow in hospitality, and as much as I loved the Fairfield Inn, it was a franchise and wasn't really much opportunity for growth, and I can kind of see that writing on the wall. So the Courtyard O'Hare was Marriott managed company. So
okay, so you could have had infinite opportunities, really.
Exactly, and essentially I did. So that was where it started.
Okay, and I understand you were also at the Marriott downtown Mag Mile.
Yes, the big box.
So you went from select service, 100 and odd change rooms to what, 800 plus rooms?
1,200.
1,200 plus rooms. And then you went back to a smaller hotel afterward.
Yes.
What was your strategy in that? Because, that most people probably wouldn't have gone to that big box and then said, okay, I'm going to go back down. Did you need that breather, or was it kind of like just
Well,
insane?
no, I love the Marriott Mag Mile. Definitely, I still do. But I wanted to be a department head.
Okay.
And that's something that I've always felt like I'm in control of my own future. I never feel like somebody's just going to walk in and be like, hey, you're great. I want to promote you. That just doesn't, it hasn't happened for me. Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm always looking ahead at what my next move is. And I always wanted to have my resume strategic in terms of what I've done and where I've done it.
Okay, so in that move, what was your mindset?
It was that I was going to be a department head. I was going to learn more on the financial side. I was going to learn about P&Ls and uh, learn about the STAR report and you know translate that into further moves.
Okay, so when you did take that move, you were actually going to as a department head at the next
Yes.
property. Okay, that's awesome. So first department head job, airport hotel.
Yeah,
I mean, not a small hotel by any means, probably super busy.
very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you decided you again wanted to make another strategic move and get into luxury hotels.
Yeah, well, from there I went to the Blackstone,
Okay.
and that was uh, I I missed Marriott, and that was really what that was. And also, it was an intriguing position. I was operations manager at the Blackstone, and I oversaw security as well as front desk and housekeeping in the evening. So that was something that I had never done, never, really worked with security outside of being MOD and, responding to noise complaints with the
Sure.
security department. But now overseeing security and getting into the risk management portion of hospitality, it opened my eyes to a lot of different things.
Okay. So from there, would you say that you were like, I want to be in luxury. This is the next move. You've done airport, you've done select service,
Yes.
you've done big box.
Yes.
Now it's time for the
The-
real deal, the big dogs,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
And what has your experience been so far in luxury hotels?
It's been great. I love the luxury element of hospitality. Um, it was I wanted the challenge initially because I've always been, kind of a laid back manager, the fun manager. Talk slang to guests. I can get away with it because I'm charming.
Sure, yeah.
But going into the luxury world, I had to put all of that aside. Nobody wants to be charmed. They want what they want, and they want it in a luxury environment. So that has been fun for me to learn luxury language, to live within a luxury culture, and to operate, and not only that, but to manage in it. So that's it's been big fun. I love it. I'm loving every minute of it, honestly. And I'm not just saying that because this is recorded.
Was there like a learning curve at all to be, go from kind of being able to walk the line of, of being professional and being friendly with guests to having to essentially put on a show for guests when they come to your property?
Man, the secret is no matter what hotel it is, they all want to show. There's a saying in hospitality, we are all on stage. So it was a learning curve, just in terms of me always being an actor as a manager or as a hotel employee. I just changed roles. So it was a little bit of a learning curve, just trying to figure out, okay, what does my clientele expect from me, and how can I make that role my own?
Okay. I like that. You basically are saying that you're an actor and you changed roles essentially, and
Yeah.
it's not like you're not being yourself, you're just doing it in a different way.
Exactly.
So now, you've worked at all these different properties. You've hired people for, line level jobs I'm sure at select service and full service luxury properties. When hiring, are there are you looking for different things based on the quality and the expectation of that particular property, or do you find that there are like just intangible traits that transcend any property's title or or status?
Both. I'll say first with the absolute non-negotiables, you got to be nice. You got to smile. I'm not saying you got to have a great smile. You just got to smile, even if your teeth crooked. You got to smile all the time. One thing I like to do, and I'm going to give away a trade secret here. Whenever I have an interview, they'll come to the desk and they'll say, I'm here to meet with Irvin Cross, have an interview, and I have the desk tell them to sit and wait, and he'll be right out. And if I'm at a hotel where I have camera footage or I can look and see, I always look to see what they're doing while they're waiting. And I mean, literally, there have been people who have gone and sat in the corner and they pull out their phone and they're just like texting or whatever, and I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work. And then I've had people who have literally stood in the lobby and like 15-5 like greeted guests, and it's just like,
That's really cool.
So I mean, it's like it's not a automatic, hiring thing, but it can definitely be almost an automatic eliminator of a job, depending on just your individual demeanor. Now, on the luxury side of it, there's a certain vernacular that you have to have. There's a certain way that you have to carry yourself, and that's just that's a standard that you have to have a certain look to be in a luxury property, because our guests expect it, our owners expect it. We have to have people that represent the brand, and the way you look and the way you talk affects that. Whereas at a select service property, you can take on a project, you can take on somebody, you can see one thing, like this person really can't put together that many words, but they have an amazing smile. I'd love to have them out front, and I can work with helping them, in their speech.
So what you're saying is, there are certain traits that you have to have. However, you might be able to get away with more of a work in progress at a select service hotel, but when you're talking luxury, you want someone who's a little bit more refined.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
And going back to what you said about watching the candidates before you speak with them, it's like, what a great way to tell someone's character is when they think nobody's watching.
Of course. Absolutely.
And I mean, if they're kind of isolating themselves, sitting on their phone, what does that say, about how they're going to be, interacting with guests, or maybe they're a little bit more introverted, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess speaking of introverts, I'm sure, do you know a lot of introverts in hospitality? I mean, I've tended to see that it's kind of not necessarily a correlation, but a lot of introverts thrive in hospitality more so than you would think.
Of course. I think, and I'll go back to the acting thing, I think that every front of house hospitality worker is a bit of an actor. I mean, sometimes you have to, like, empathy in and of itself is acting. You have to find that whatever it is to actually care sometimes. I mean, literally, you have a guest that comes and they're like, I woke up this morning and there was a hair on my pillow. What are you going to do for me? And it's like, in your head, you're just like, it probably came from you, you idiot. Yeah. But, what comes out is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I can only imagine how, damaging that might make you feel. Let's come to a resolution. And it's like, you have to care enough to let the guests know that you care, even if you don't.
An Oscar-winning performance right there by Irvin.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, but I think that everybody who's successful in hospitality does that. The other thing, too, I think hospitality makes you an introvert.
Interesting. How so?
I know before I worked in hospitality, well, I was a much younger man. I love to go out. I love to be around people. You know, I love studying people. Um, After working in hospitality, particularly as long as I have, I kind of don't want to be around people when I'm off work. I'm just kind of like, please leave me alone. And when you work in hospitality, you smell like hospitality. It exudes from your pores. So I'll literally like be on the train and somebody be like, "Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to?" And I'm just like, I don't work here. This isn't, but at the same time, you have to help her. I'm like walking down Michigan Avenue and people just stop me and they're like, "Excuse me, where's, Clark Street?" And it's like, 4 blocks
Of course,
west.
you're not gonna point with your finger. You
Oh,
use
no.
the open palm point because it never stops.
My boss says the difference between a 1-star hotel and a 5-star hotel.
I like that. I like that.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think you kind of touched on how like being in hospitality kind of just leaks into your life. Can you like identify any like memorable moments where you've been, maybe approached or where you've just simply been like, oh man, what has happened to me? Like you started working in hospitality and all of a sudden you're like not the same person anymore.
I'll say, you say memorable. I think my most memorable experience, or one thing that basically let me know that hospitality was different from anything else in the world. Okay, so I'll paint a picture. I'll do it quickly.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm working overnight. This is at the Renaissance Schaumburg, and I'm overnight supervisor. And we get a call from a guest saying it's raining in my room, and I'm like, "It's raining in your room? You're crazy." And she's like, "No, it's like rain coming down from my room," and you could like literally hear waterfall in her room. So over the phone. So I'm just like, okay, I call engineering, I call the houseman, and I'm just like, meet me at this room. And we get to the room, and we're all like, oh no, what is going on? Well, we get to the room above her room, and we're like, what is going on? We're going to see a dead guy, hopefully, best case scenario, somebody left the water on or whatever. So we knock on the door, and we get nothing. Knock again, we get nothing. And engineer hits the door with his key, the latch is on. So now we're like, oh boy, here we
It's going to be one of those nights.
It's going to be one of those nights. And engineer has their little, machine where they pop the latch, and room is dark, and you hear the water running, and it's just like, oh no, what's around this corner? So we turn on the lights. Hello, 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 nothing. And we go in the bathroom, turn off the sink, which was running, and a guy walks around the corner. He has on a t-shirt and nothing else. Not even socks. And so we're just like, man, can you put something on? Like, why is your run? I lost all bearing at that point. I wasn't the manager. I was Irvin from the South Side. And I'm just like, man, put on the road, man, and, come out here and explain why you got this water running in here. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And he's affected by something.
Of course.
And he's like, is room service available? I'm like, man, close that robe up. And so the engineer is trying to, the engineer and the houseman are trying to, sop up the water. And I got security there with me. And I hear the security guard yell the loudest obscenity I'd ever heard in my life. And I look over, and the guy is standing there peeing with nothing but a t-shirt on, just freely flowing into the water that is being dammed up by towels. And I was just like, I love hospitality.
You got bit by the bug right there.
You can't make this stuff up. It's like I'm going to work after this, and there's no doubt in my mind that I probably will see something tonight that I've never seen before in hospitality. And that's where the draw is.
So, I mean, and I think I can even relate to this too. There's sort of a high you get from the experience
Oh, it's a drug.
of it seriously it pumps you up when you're
Oh, yeah.
dealing with something, or when you just experience something new, or it's almost as if you can be completely surprised but also not surprised all at the same time.
Oh, that's the draw. And I mean, I go back and forth. I'm like, oh, do I really want to keep doing this with my life? And can I just go get an office job somewhere Monday through Friday? And it's like, no, that's not who I am. Like, hospitality has become such a big part of me, and it's because of reasons like that. Because it's always something different. It's always something new that just has you like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Yeah.
I mean, it's always something new in hospitality, and it's also with different properties you go to that come with different challenges, different clientele, different just a different set of things that might happen there. Is there any correlation between the level and the status of a hotel and
Oh, yeah, no.
the issues you deal with?
Definitely. It's the big leagues. The expectation is so much higher in luxury, which thankfully, from our executive committee and, my leaders, we have, I guess, more freedom to make the guests happy than you would at, a select service property, which makes my job easier. But the number of issues, it really doesn't change. And that doesn't have anything to do with the product. It doesn't have anything to do with the brand. I strongly believe that any hotel, from the most lavish 5-star hotel to the little guy, there's always going to be issues, just because there are always going to be humans, and humans are subject to complaint. So,
What does the future look like for you now? I mean, I know you're still recently, starting at the Conrad, but
mm-hmm.
where do you see yourself? I mean, you've been in hospitality 12, 13 years. What's your vision?
I just enjoy being in an environment where I can make an impact, and I love helping people. I love mentoring, people, young people, and I honestly don't have like a next role in mind. Partly because I'm still so new in this current role, but just in terms of the future, I'm looking for places where I can have impact. That's all I have, just on my palette, is making an impact. And I'm sure that, once my time at the Conrad has run its course, or the position at the Conrad has run its course, I'll be looking for places where I can make impact.
And in hospitality, what, a better industry to have that opportunity? There's always an opportunity to make an impact, whether it's making a guest smile or, making an employee get promoted, or, something like that. There's always an impact to be made.
Definitely. And I love, talking to people that I worked with 5-10 years ago, and, seeing on LinkedIn that they got promoted, or even, getting messages from them. It's just like, Irv, I just got promoted. Or even if they, reach out to me for advice, it's like, wow, this is fulfilling.
Well, and at that point, you may not even see them every day. You may not work with them every day, but your impact is still with them to a certain extent.
Of course.
Can you identify your first mentor, whether that was in the industry or in life, that you think that impact has stayed with you the most?
Definitely my father. My dad, now he's older. He's, a frail old man. Yeah. But when I was growing up, he was just a big, mean, grizzled dude. And literally, I'm like 12 or 13 years old, and it's me, my sister, and my father at home. And I'm in my room, my sister's in her room, and we just hear boom, 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 boom. And we're like, what the heck was that? And my sister comes out, and I hear her say, should I call an ambulance? And I'm like, oh gosh. So I run out there. My father fell down the stairs. And
Oh, no.
not lying, he pops his leg back into place. walks it off a little bit. He's like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm going to work." For real. And it was just like, that's what we do. We go to work. You don't call off over no sniffles. You go to work. You pop it back in place.
Damn right.
And you go to work. That's what allowed me to, have an honorable career in the Air Force. That's what allowed me, I harp on accountability. I think that such a huge portion of working in hospitality or any industry is showing up, and that's what I learned habitually from my father. You show up. You do what you say you're going to do. You don't make excuses. You pop it back in place and you show up.
You pop it back in place and you show up.
Absolutely.
So
Trademark that.
There you go, TM. No one take that.
Nice.
So you were what, 12, 13 at the time you said?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you'll probably never forget that.
Never.
You must have been like, and it's interesting because in that moment, your father probably didn't even realize how big of an impact he was having on you at that time. But you were probably like, okay, Dad, I see you.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm inspired by you right now.
Absolutely. And I mean, even in that moment, I wasn't really inspired. I think I was more mortified than anything, but I mean, just growing from that, it was just like, no excuses.
So, and it seems to me like, has your dad's impact on you given you that hunger to impact other people?
Of course. Definitely. I mean, you only live one life, and you only have so many cheerleaders in life. There's a lot of times where you just have to be your own cheerleader. You have to get after it for yourself, and it's like that impact, just him and the way he was and the way he still is just like, you're your biggest cheerleader, you're your biggest supporter, and that way, since you have that covered, now you can go out and impact others' lives. Now you can go out and do for other people because you're not worried about, I wonder what this person thinks of me. I wonder,
Yeah. So having self-awareness, you think, and self-assurance is, has a lot to do with how you can impact other people.
Of course.
Is there somebody specifically that you like have mentored over the years and maybe you've stuck in contact with, or have you ever like worked with people from different properties at other hotels?
Yes, absolutely. And when I worked at the Marriott Mag Mile, had a boss and a few coworkers. We were really close, and then at the Blackstone, that boss came and basically recruited all of us back, and we were able to reach some levels of high success just based on that familiarity. Now, every time I have an open role that I'm hiring for, looking for, I'm kind of looking at that same philosophy. It's really easy when you know what people are capable of to reach out and say, hey, what you doing nowadays? I got this role and this is what I'm looking for, and I think you'd be perfect for it. So there are some specific people. One guy that I keep in contact with, my buddy Zach, who I worked with at the Renaissance Schaumburg, and we don't talk very often, but every time there's a career move or every time there's an opening of some sort, we always reach out, and it's like, what's going on? What you think about this? So he's about my same age, so he would hate if I say I'm his mentor, but I think I'm like his mentor.
It's probably safe to say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So safe to say that networking has played a huge role in driving your career momentum, and I mean, not even just you, but in hospitality in general, networking is huge.
Of course.
What's your advice to young people starting out in hospitality who think they might want to go somewhere with it, but they're just not sure, or think that they don't have enough experience to be taken seriously in a networking situation? Because personally, I've seen it happen many times where people psych themselves out and think that, oh, this person's untouchable because they're a manager, or they're an executive level committee member. What do you think about that?
I think stick with it. That's the advice that I would give, and manage your reputation. You know, make sure that your reputation stays intact. I always say it's not what you know, it's not even who you know, it's who you know that'll say the right things about you. And it's such a big thing to have a positive attitude. I know that sounds like, yeah, have a positive attitude, but the effects of a negative attitude in hospitality, I just can't be around negative people. I'm allergic to it.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, you want to get promoted, make your boss's job easier. You know, if I come in and you have a long list of things that shouldn't be happening or things that should be done, and before I can even have my coffee, you want to tell me all about it, then I am looking to get away from you as soon as humanly possible, no matter what, you know, because if you see these issues, correct them. If you don't have the power to correct them, get the power to correct them. There's no reason for you to tell me things that I already see and that I'm already working on. So if you maintain positivity and you make life easier for your bosses, there'll always be a place for you and there'll always be opportunity for growth.
Okay. That's really well said. I hope everybody's listening to that.
Of course.
Do you have any final thoughts you want to say before we wrap up?
I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk hospitality. You know, is obviously one of our favorite subjects.
Absolutely.
Just because it's so enigmatic. It's one of those things that it's always on the forefront. I mean, it's like I find myself, you know, doing the guest model and, you know, empathizing in like real world situations. You know, my daughter comes home from school and she's telling me about a rough day, and I'm just like, I'm sorry that happened to you. Yeah.
Another Oscar-winning performance, man.
Exactly. So yeah, I just thank you for this opportunity.
Of course, I thank you for taking the time to be with us. Thanks so much, Irvin.
My pleasure.
Greg here from Hospitality MD. Thanks again for watching. We hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash that subscribe button, like, and share. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.